guys, welcome back to the Between Sessions podcast. My name is Eboni Harris.
And I'm Elisa Fokine, and we are two brown chicks changing the face of therapy on both sides of the couch. Why are you whispering it?
Because I didn't want to miss it.
We talked about this last week.
No, I have trust issues. You know that.
We are back. No more remix.
Thank y'all for joining us. We are back for another week during this continued cycle of social distancing. I feel like every time if I do like a podcast or anything, just catching up with friends, like, so what you been up to? And everybody's like, you know,
same thing you are.
Nothing new is really going on.
Yes, it's a blessing at the same time, right? Because we have stayed thankfully healthy throughout this, so that is a blessing. But yes, it is. What week is this? I don't even know. I was thinking about that today. I was like, how many weeks have I been doing this already?
You've been doing it. I think this is the end of your fourth week. I started the week after you.
I feel like it's way more than 4.
Because my birthday is the 22nd, and you had worked from home that week before my birthday. I didn't. I worked at the office the week before.
Man, I really could have sworn it was like week 6.
It's been 3 months. Because they officially shut it down like that Tuesday or Wednesday, but I had already transitioned or whatever. So yeah. It does feel like it's been like, this is just what it is, and it feels like it's been a long time, which is good. I think as it continues, I talked to a lot of people that felt like last week was a little more difficult for some reason, and I don't know if that was like somebody said that because it takes 3 weeks to form a habit. And so that would have been like the 3rd week, I think, or close to it. And so people were like, oh, like starting to hit you a little bit.
Yeah.
Like, oh, this is really happening and this is different, as opposed to like the first couple of weeks where you're still kind of adjusting and things like that.
That makes sense. Yeah, because for me, it was the week prior to that I was like, all right, this is hitting me now.
Right.
So that's what we're going to be talking about today is what we're doing to survive quarantine life.
Right. And we understand. I've been watching a lot of podcasts and like normal. And I've heard people that feel kind of weird about talking about some of this stuff because it's like first world problems or it's not that serious if you don't have. But the reality is your experience is important. And even if you haven't been directly impacted by it, as far as like losing someone, and yes, we have a lot of luxuries here. That is a blessing. That doesn't mean that it's not still a struggle and that you still may be having some areas where it's like, I still can't seem to get it together. And so we want to still be able to be there for each other and support each other in this.
Absolutely, because I think part of what we talk about is the mental health, the ways that our mental health is being impacted by this. And completely acknowledge that a big part of our conversation, what we have to add to the conversation really is coming from a place of privilege. Like I said, we are both healthy. We have the luxury of setting our own schedules and being in our homes and still having an income during this time. And so completely aware of all of that. And yet there are still the different factors of how this has been impacting our mental health, especially as mental health providers, you know, where we're showing up for other people during this time and just on a personal level, how it's impacting us. So yes, everybody's experience is different.
Yeah. So we're just going to kind of go through it and talk about what we would give as like the top 3 things or the top 2 things for each of us that has helped us kind of make it through this pandemic. And continues to help us kind of keep our sanity. You want to go first?
Sure. So for me, one of the things that is helping me a lot, because I have a history of dealing with anxiety, dealing with depression, and I was just finding myself again kind of in that mode where it's like getting out of bed sometimes in the morning is difficult. And so I had already been being intentional about taking walks or what have you. But some of the days where I was finding myself negotiating that with myself a lot more, right? Like, you know, I walked yesterday. So I noticed, especially within this last week, where I am intentionally moving every day even just doing like an at-home workout with, again, less of the focus on coming out of this with a summer body,
Right. Right.
but more of just moving my body. And I was just finding more and more how that was helping me, and having music that was like uplifting at the time. And I could just feel my mood shifting while I'm doing that. Like with me, I'm walking on my treadmill, I'm having the music on, and I just feel my mood lifting. And I've noticed that when I do that and I have my routine for the rest of the day, I just feel so much lighter. I feel
Mm-hmm.
so much better. And it's something that we hear all the time. But if you really, really commit to doing this every day and doing it like around the same time at the beginning of the day,
Mm-hmm.
just notice how much better you feel throughout the day.
Yeah, I agree with that. That's definitely a big part. Typically, and I realized the good thing about this is that the weather has been pretty decent. I mean, it's getting into kind of the rainy season for us, but it it's typically the time when I start like walking a little bit more, and I do notice that I'm trying to make sure I do it every day, if not every other day, but typically I try to go at least, and not even anything big, like you said, major. It's not about trying to be like weight loss or anything like that. It's just, I know that sitting in a chair or on my couch or on my bed or whatever for a long period of time can start to like shift my mood. So definitely getting out, and especially when the sun is out. Like I'm looking out right now, and I didn't get to go this morning, and so I'm going to definitely go after this, to be able to get some of that vitamin D, which we know kind of improves our mood as well. So I agree with that 100%. I haven't even, like, it's so many free options too, but I haven't even like taken it. It's literally like just go outside and go for a walk, maybe a little walk run, but typically just going outside.
Yeah, and it was funny because I was using the time to also listen to stuff that I could learn,
Right.
so like educational videos. And then, but I noticed that once I started to add the music instead, it just made a big difference. Like, yeah, I was like, okay, I'll be learning this, or I'm watching like something on my screen, and it was like, no, adding the music, adding some upbeat music, I could just feel my energy just shifting and feeling better and getting off of that. So yeah, something, and if you have like a space in your home, or if you can walk, and it can be as simple as just dancing or what have you, just do it every day for the next week and see how that helps to shift your mood.
Right. I would say, and I probably, if you listen to this podcast, you probably won't be surprised, but my first one is just connecting with others. So I've done the virtual happy hours. I've taken my sister did a virtual cooking class, and that was fun. I've also seen people face to face, but it's very like, I was listening to something and they were saying like it's like your quarantine tribe or something like that. Like people that like, we are by ourselves. We don't go anywhere. It's 14, we it's not like we're like out in the world. Like either I'm at my apartment or maybe I go to your apartment, but it's not like we're out in the world being around other people. So it's a very small group of us that like spend time together, like, and like once a week or something like that, which has been helpful. And I understand that it just is what's necessary, is to be able to connect with other people and to be able to have the conversations and the laughs. So virtually is fun, and that's the majority of what I do. But also being able to, when you live by yourself, being able to actually go sit with somebody else that's been by themselves for 2 weeks as well has been extremely helpful as well for me.
Yeah, definitely connecting with others. Most of the connecting that I've been doing has been through like this with Zoom, when I hit you up, throughout the week and connect with you or connect with loved ones using that FaceTime, whatever it may be. But that is a big thing about staying connected to people that we love.
Yeah. That's important.
I guess it's my turn.
I was like, you got it?
I was thinking about like the virtual coffee dates and stuff. Yeah, that's it. Okay, come back. All right. So for me, another big part of how I began through this, again, I'm always a proponent of therapy and all things healing. So scheduling my regular sessions scheduling as needed, really. I've met with my own therapist online a couple of times throughout this. That's just super helpful to me, where I can take my therapist hat off and somebody is just there to help me kind of for me to hear what I need to hear, or to process my own fears and my own anxieties that have been coming up around this. You know, for me, I'm a mother. I have elderly parents. You know, one of my parents is you know, he has why is my brain completely
Autoimmune.
He's at risk, right? Yes, autoimmune. You know, so I've had a lot of fear around my loved ones contracting this. And so helping me to process some of my fears around it, some of my anxiety, giving me tips on how to stay grounded, and just that connection that you get in therapy. And I love all things healing. So a friend of mine had recommended someone that she'd connected with that focuses on energy healing and distance. And I love all of that. So doing that, and then connecting with other colleagues who are also healers, and having the conversations around healing. So a big part of this has been really being intentional about whatever it is that I need to do in order to tap into the resources that I have to just help me address the different stuff that's coming up during this time.
Yeah, I think that's a huge one. And like you said, even connecting with other healers is helpful to be able to have some conversations about our experiences, and just having that understanding that other people are going through similar things is really, really helpful in this whole process. So it doesn't feel like, am I the only one that's kind of like losing it in some areas, but also things are going well in other areas. So I agree with that 100%. My last one would be accepting this as a new normal. I think sometimes, and it's so funny because I feel like I'm a pretty lax person, but I'm lax in things that I can control. Like I'm lax as far as like I accept things as they come, but I've set up my life where I don't have a lot of like surprises, you know? And so when all of this is happening, I'm still go with the flow. I still kind of like make it happen, but kind of being like, okay, this is what it is, and this is what it could possibly be for a while. And so if I'm going to accept that, then how do I adjust, right? As opposed to trying to fight it and be upset and frustrated and all those things. Just kind of like recognizing like this is the new normal, and there are a lot of things that are going to shift after this that we're not even like know about or prepared for. And so not being so caught up in things going back to normal, but just kind of moving into what's going to happen next. I think, if we're like, I can't wait to get back. I can't wait till we can go back to my favorite restaurant. What if your favorite restaurant is closed, right? So like, kind of being like, what's happening right now is what's happening, and how do I adjust it and live in the moment, and not be so focused on getting back to the past, and also not so much like worried about what could happen in the future has been. So I guess staying present. That's the one. Yeah, staying present.
You're good at that though.
I try to be.
Mm-hmm.
I try to be. There are definitely times when I get out of it, but I try to like, and it's funny because I always think about when people say they have anxiety, and I'm like, I wonder if I have anxiety, but I just have managed it because I'm like, because I know that if I do go, I could probably go really far. So I've done such a like extreme version of like, no, don't even go there. So I try my best to really like just sit here and just to like, this is what I have to accept, and not that it's hard, and not that it's difficult, and not that it's disappointing sometimes and all that stuff. But, once it is what it is, like, how do I not get caught up in like the possibilities, or caught up in what could have been or what was?
Yeah.
And that's helped me a lot.
Yeah. So. I think you've been good at that. Because a lot of times when we come up in scenarios, I'm like, nah, let's be angry. Like, all right, okay. Now we got to keep it going. It's like,
yeah.
So yeah, you're good at that. So,
thanks.
Yeah,
I also had a bonus that was based on, we did a podcast about it already, but I was thinking this is really important, and kind of even going into what you're saying about when you were saying music, as opposed to like audiobooks and podcasts and all that kind of stuff, is don't pressure yourself to be someone completely different after this is over. I think sometimes it seems like because we have more free time, or because, you don't have time to kind of do those other activities that you used to do. It's like, well, I guess I should be spending my time being productive. And again, we had a whole podcast on this, so just go check that out.
Yeah.
But I think it's important that it's not you don't want to have that pressure of like, once we leave here, I need to have read 7 books and have lost 15 pounds and, created my whole online course. And if you do all of that, that's great. But don't feel like you have to be doing that during this time. Like, even if you are working less or have less activities, does not mean that your stress level is still higher. Right. And so allowing yourself the space of and I feel like people are getting a lot more present in their own like body and what they need, which I think is awesome. And so some days it's like I can go hard and I can work for 8-12 hours, and then some days I'm like, I don't really want to do nothing. Yeah. And that's okay, and that's perfectly fine. And hopefully we keep that awareness after this.
Oh, for sure, definitely. I think being able to set limits around production and setting limits around just that grind mentality or that hustle mentality, I think is going to be super important that we carry that on, because how do we set limits and boundaries and so that we can have some balance in our life? But just understanding, again, we're not on vacation right now. We're being asked to be at home so that you don't get sick. So it's a very different scenario, and not much of a break.
Definitely. So those are our tips.
Those are our tips. No. Yeah, share with us. How are you getting through this? What's been working for you? We'd love to hear that and incorporate it into our own daily lives. So for sure.
Definitely. So leave a comment, subscribe, like, all that jazz, and make sure you check out melaninmentalhealth.com. Follow us across social media at Melanin Health on Twitter, Melanin Mental Health on Facebook and Instagram. And that is all we have for y'all today. Bye.
Bye.